2 Action News.
All right, Lisa, thank you for the live update. Well, we'd like now to take a look at the latest national figures. Let's take a look at the board. Well, we don't have that. All right, let's go to Bill Nigan now, who's with some guests here in the studio this evening. Bill, I'd like to hear from you and the gentleman about why Governor Clinton carried Georgia.
Well, Don, we'll ask our guests, who let me in fact introduce him again very briefly to you right now, if we can get him. Max Cleland, Secretary of State, who you see on the left of your screen. And next to him is Johnny Isakson, who ran for governor in 1990 as a Republican candidate, and we should say is on his way to the state Senate. He didn't have any challengers. Max Cleland and I talking about what a powerful force he is up in Cobb County. Absolutely. Nobody wanted to take him on.
Absolutely.
Well, let's find out. First of all, quick question about the presidential race to both of you gentlemen. Look, Georgia has voted Republican for a long time in presidential races. Since it was your candidate who's projected as the winner, Mr. Cleland, let's start with you. What was different about Bill Clinton this time? Why was he a different candidate? Or was he just the beneficiary of hard economic times?
Well, he took advantage of that. I mean, he took advantage of the wedge that President Bush had made between the current economic crisis and the working men and women of America. And he drove that wedge pretty well. He also picked a Southerner to our northern border here as his number 2. And then with the active support of Governor Miller, in the primary especially, Governor Clinton laid a good, strong base here to go ahead and win tonight.
Johnny Isakson, there are many people who feel that the president, one of his problems was he simply didn't start soon enough, that he needed to get out of the blocks earlier, really build a case for why he could be a better man in the next, in his second term. He still could win this thing nationally, but at least here in Georgia, did he make the case well enough and from early enough on?
Well, I think, first of all, on a night like tonight, it's easy to say what you should have done. I think we ought to focus on what the electorate obviously did. The economy was the #1 issue. I think it was an overriding issue. I have to agree with Secretary Cleland on one point. The Democrats got their act together, which they haven't had together for a long time. They buried their differences somewhere, and they had a single focus in Georgia, which made it a tough campaign. But the president and the vice president came here. They're very popular in Georgia. We certainly regret that we lost Georgia, but we think we ran a great race. So I think you had a situation where, if anything, it may have been a combination of a referendum on economic times combined with the Democrats getting their act together, which they haven't had in presidential politics probably since Carter.
Exactly.
Let's talk about the Senate race very briefly. Paul Coverdale and Wyche Fowler. This race looks like it could be very, very close throughout the evening. Are you expecting to get a quick answer from you, Mr. Isakson? Are we going to see this race go down to the wire, do you think?
I don't think there's any question about it.
Why?
Because Wyche Fowler has a record. It's a tough year for incumbents. Paul Coverdale has a record, he's an experienced leader. I think you're going to see a great race and a Coverdale victory.
Max Cleland, Fowler going to win this easily when the Fulton County and the DeKalb County votes come in, or is it going to be tight?
He's not going to win it easily. I think he'll win it. I think the key question is how many votes does the Libertarian candidate get to threaten a runoff tonight?
All right. You're going to be with us all evening, you gentlemen. We're looking forward to hearing your comments. In the meantime, back to Don and Monica.
All right, thank you. And gentlemen, some of the things you've been saying are being echoed by other observers around the country tonight as they watch the national election for president. Let's go now to Houston, Texas, to the Bush headquarters, where our Channel 2's Carol Spars has a live update. Carol.
Well, Don, you can hear the band playing behind me, but it's not a festive feeling right now here. President Bush is over at the Houstonian watching the returns. It's got to be kind of a somber mood in there, I'm sure. Just talked to some supporters here. One said this is a very sad day, but another was smiling and said we're going to come through, although you're not really hearing that echo throughout the room. Everybody's just quietly watching the returns. One young Republican I just talked to said she's very depressed and scared. She says she's grown up with Republicans in power, and she's very worried about the possibility of a Democrat taking over. President Bush is expected to make his way over here about 10:30 or 11 tonight to greet his supporters, and there are a lot of folks showing up here who are very anxious to see him, some who are still crossing their fingers, but the mood is really going downhill. Reporting live from Houston, Carol Spars, Channel 2 Action News.
Thank you very much, Carol. And the race for U.S. Senate incumbent Wyche Fowler is in a heated battle with former Peace Corps Director Paul Coverdale. Looking at the figures right now, Fowler is ahead with 53%, but only 23% of the precincts have been reported. Coverdale is behind with 44%, and Judson Mr. Al Hudson is the Libertarian candidate, has only 3% of the vote. We have team coverage on this race, and we begin with Channel 2's Steve Gasquet. He's live at Fowler headquarters. Steve.
Monica, right now, of course, I am at Fowler headquarters, and the balloons are up, and the people are glued to the TV sets, and the room is really starting to fill up. For a while, of course, the numbers were very close, and people weren't really sure whether it was going to be perhaps a Fowler win or perhaps a runoff. And just a little while ago, the candidate himself came down to what he hoped would be a victory party. Now, Wyche Fowler met a lot of his supporters. He shook their hands, people who had worked with the campaign all along, people who had been on his staff in the campaign, or people who just came by to wish him well. And during the talk that we had with him, well, the senator told us that he is cautiously optimistic.
So you can have some people report might be a solidly Democratic district, some next will be a solidly Republican. Until we have some kind of knowledge of where those votes are coming from, I wouldn't put too much stock in those numbers. Now,
that's the senator being cautiously optimistic here. And now we go to John Alston over at the Coverdale headquarters. What's the mood there, John?
Well, Steve, you should have just heard all the boos when Senator Fowler just appeared on TV a few seconds ago. As far as the Coverdale people are concerned, the best is yet to come, because most of their votes will come from the crowded areas around suburban Atlanta, where it will take some time to count all the votes. Now, we have some video of what's been going on here at Coverdale GOP headquarters. A lot of the cheers went on when we saw some of the numbers indicating that President Bush was doing rather well in Florida and Texas and Virginia. There you see Senator, hoping to be Senator Paul Coverdale meeting some people earlier tonight. These events bring together all sorts of interesting people, and one of those people is with me right now. And if you do not recognize her, you probably have not watched much television during the past few weeks. She is 73-year-old Margie Lopp. She is the woman you see swinging on the porch down in South Georgia, singing the anti-Wyche Fowler Paul Coverdale song. Margie Lopp, how you doing?
Hi, how you doing?
You're a celebrity, aren't you?
Well, I don't know right at this point, but we're going to win this election.
We're not going to make you sing, but let me ask you, you feel good about Paul Coverdale right now?
Absolutely. If I hadn't believed in him, I never could have written that jingle for him. When you believe in something, you have to back it up. That's the only reason I did it.
Thank you very much, Margie Lopp, an ardent Paul Coverdale supporter. Again, it will probably be a long night here because so many of the outlying areas around Atlanta will take a while before all of the votes are counted. Reporting live from Coverdale GOP headquarters, I'm John Alston, Channel 2 Action News.
You know, here in Georgia, that woman now is as famous as the Where's the Beef lady and the lady who fell down and couldn't get up, right? I suspect she'll be back in the next election. Let's continue our look now at some other key congressional races here in Georgia. 11 people to be elected. First of all, in the 1st Congressional District, coastal Georgia, from Savannah to the Florida state line, Barbara Christmas, the Democrat, is trying to be one of the female. She's a woman trying to be a Democratic female running for the House of Representatives and to be successful tonight. She has 46% of the vote in second place. The Republican, Jack Kingston, who is a state representative from Savannah, he is leading right now with 40% of the precincts reporting with 54%. Let's look at the 2nd Congressional District now here in Georgia with 30% of the precincts reporting. State Senator Sanford Bishop from Columbus, who beat incumbent Hatcher in the primary, is ahead now with 60% of the vote. That's in less than a third of the precincts reporting, however. Jim Dudley, a doctor from Americus, Georgia, is in second place with 40% of the vote. And we'll turn now to the 5th Congressional District, which comprises most of Atlanta, of course, and Fulton County. Democratic incumbent John Lewis, a very popular incumbent congressman here. He wants a 4th term. It looks like he's going to get it, although the actual vote count is still small. He's the heavy favorite, always has been, with 88% of the vote over relative newcomer Paul Stabler, a real estate broker Republican who has 12% of the vote.
And we have 2 more congressional races to look at right now. Moving to the U.S. Congress, District 8, the incumbent Roy Rowland of Dublin right now is ahead with 59% of the vote, and Bob Cunningham is behind with 41% of the vote. Moving to District 10, State Senator from Royston, Don Johnson, has 61%. And Ralph Hudgens has 39%, again, with less than a third, a little bit over a third almost of the precincts counted.
Let's see now, Monica, do you think I established that Barbara Christmas is a Democrat, is a woman, and is trying to get a seat in the House of Representatives?
And she has nothing to do with the holiday.
And she's a school principal, so be careful. Let's turn our coverage once again to the presidential race. Channel 2's Michael Marsh is live in Little Rock, Arkansas, where Bill Clinton is watching these election returns with some glee, I suspect. Michael.
He certainly should be by now. You can finally hear the music's cranked up. The crowd is electrified here. It is huge and growing. We have a shot that you can see of downtown Little Rock. There are literally thousands of people in a 5-block area, most of them here in front of the old State House, where Bill Clinton will eventually address the throngs of folks that have gathered here. Now, Bill Clinton, incidentally, was reported to be out jogging just as the polls were closing back in Georgia. By now, he knows, of course, that Georgia is in his camp, and all the rest of the states. Incidentally, NBC News is reporting that Bill Clinton has 238 electoral votes right now. Now, Al Gore, on the other hand, arrived here in Little Rock just a couple of hours ago. He came in by plane and landed at the airport out in Little Rock. He was apparently coming back to Tennessee. He had his family with him, and he is down at the headquarters, we understand. Both candidates are supposed to make appearances at their campaign headquarters, possibly at 2 tents that will be parties going on there. And in the meantime, people here are just having a good time. It is cold. The rain has stopped. The wind is still blowing very briskly, though. But the people we talked to said they would not miss it for the world, that history is being made here in Little Rock, Arkansas. And that's the way they feel here in Little Rock. We hope to bring you more, of course, in about an hour, and then again, of course, at 11 o'clock. For the time being, I'm Michael Marsh, Channel 2 Action News, reporting from Little Rock.
Thank you, Michael. And as we've just learned a few moments ago, ABC is projecting that Bill Clinton at this moment has 235 electoral votes. Again, that's a projection. But if it continues like that, he only needs 35 more to win.
And that includes New Jersey, we should point out, which was one of the key battlegrounds in the eastern part of the country. A lot of the conventional wisdom, including our expert Bill Nigut, said that if he gets New Jersey, you don't really have to wait for California, Oregon, and the rest of the states in the West. But we'll see. That's projections. That's not the actual count. Don Mack, our Don McClellan. I keep calling him Don Mack because that's what we call him around here all the time. He joins us regularly, as he does tonight, and tonight his job is to talk with some of the voters who are out there who have been standing in line a long time. Don, of course, like the rest of us, is sensitive to the fact that people want to cast their vote no matter what the networks may say about who is going to win or lose. With that in mind, here's Don McClellan joining us with some of the voters who are still waiting out there. Don.
Amen. We're in Middle Cherokee County, and you can begin to see the end of the line here at Holly Springs Elementary School. Many people, as they come out now, are telling us it's been 3.5 to 4 hours for them. And a couple of hours ago, photographer Dan Casey was at the end of the line when the deputy Don Bush, cut it off. This is the last man. That's Doug Milner, and they're looking at their clock right now, and it was 7 p.m. as he cut it off. And here a guy came up, you see, just after that. He brought his chair. He was prepared for a long evening. The deputy had to turn him around. And the crowd at that moment, you can hear the boos. They were booing what the deputy did. They wanted him to get his chances. They were going to get theirs. And here's a lady coming back with a child. She said this was the 3rd time she'd been here. And when she came before, the line wasn't nearly as long as it was at 7 p.m. Those are some of the people that were turned away. These people that are in line now, maybe another hour or two before they get a chance to say how they feel about the people who are running for office and, of course, all the amendment questions. Reporting live from Cherokee County, the Holly Springs Elementary School, Don McClellan, Channel 2 Action News.
And Don, we should tell you that a few moments ago in our earlier reports, some viewers called in and were concerned because you had pulled someone from the line. I guess we could say you were in no way trying to say that they shouldn't vote just because ABC had projected a winner. We know you misspoke, and we apologize to those viewers who called in to complain. We're very sensitive. Still ahead in the special election edition of the 92 Vote, we'll have a live report on the congressional race between Newt Gingrich and Tony Center.
And our Richard Belcher joins us with some updates on who's winning and losing a lot of the other races around Georgia tonight. All right, let's take a look at the late returns now on some key election contests we're covering for you tonight. First of all, in the U.S. Senate race from Georgia, with about 28% of the precincts reporting, the Democratic incumbent, Wyche Fowler, looking for a second term, has 53% of the vote. The challenger, Republican Paul Coverdale, has 44%. The Libertarian candidate in the race today, Jim Hudson, has 3% of the vote. Let's take a look now at the Congressional District number 4 here in Georgia. Kathy Steinberg, the Democrat, with 51%. John Linder, the Republican, 49%. Pretty close, but again, a very small vote count there. A lot of votes not yet counted because of the huge crowds in metro Atlanta. We do not have returns available yet for the 6th Congressional District, where Newt Gingrich and Tony Center are in a neck-and-neck struggle, or at least the